Let's check in with him. He's live at Golden One Center watching some NCAA tournament. But of course, we got to talk some Kings with him after the Kings got the win in Chicago last night. He's the one and only Sean Cunningham from Fox 40. What's up, Seanzo?
Deuce Mo.
Oh, hi.
Did I hit the note?
Oh my! You kind of honestly, Sean. I would put you in my band.
Wow.
Oh, lead singer. Thank you.
That's interesting. You put him in your band because I would not put him in mine.
Well, you're kind of an ass, and I'm not.
Well, is it obvious that you would put him in yours?
Yes, he.
Wait, okay. No,
he has a sense like a good music feel, like he loves music.
So it's obvious.
What?
It's almost as obvious as Mike Brown for Coach of the Year.
Oh, here we go.
Sean Cunningham's not so certain about that, apparently. Hey, Sean, how you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you guys? I would I would just say that while I said again, there was 18 or 19 games left in the season. I think when I said what I said, I said what I said. I didn't say I didn't think he would win because I think he will win.
Okay.
That wasn't my point. I was making some arguments for some other people. And look, I mean, I know everyone's so close to what happens here in Sacramento, and I think if you take it on Coach of the Year, like I think the reason I think Mike Brown will win is because so many media types will vote for it, and they'll take narratives from past seasons and history of Sacramento and roll that into what's happening this season. And it's a feel good story. And nonetheless, like again, if he wins, it's not like I'm shouting from mountaintop, like, no, this is an injustice for guys like Mike Budenholzer or Michael Malone or, but it's funny just how often Coach of the Year ends up being more of the surprise Coach of the Year. Like this person has been the surprise coach. And I don't always agree with some of the coaches that get it, but I can make arguments for others is kind of the point I was making even with Joe Mazzulla. But yeah, man, he'd probably be in my top two, but
top two?
Like Mike Buden.
How can we bully you into saying that you would actually, what would Mike Brown have to do for you to be like, yeah, you know what? He would be my vote.
I mean, he doesn't really have to do much of anything. I mean, first of all, Mike Brown probably doesn't want it. Secondly, I don't have a vote, so calm down, folks. And it's an opinion. And,
I know. I just want to change your opinion. I want to have that influence over you. I'm the puppet master.
I mean, look, it takes nothing away from what he's done, But again, you've got a team that's putting, and this could be an argument in his favor, but it's like, you've got this. At the time I said it, it's like, no, there's still like 7 teams, I think, that were better records overall. You had a team that was doing some incredible things offensively, stuff we haven't seen before in league history, which is awesome. Defensively, they're a joke. Defensively, they're an absolute joke. So to find moments where, like, I think also there are coaches that get dissed in a way. Like, oh, you're expected to be a great coach because of the talent you have. And that's just utter garbage, because with that great talent comes great expectations. And if you meet said expectations, it's like, well, okay, yeah, you were supposed to do that. And I just don't like that stuff.
You know what's funny, Sean? I think Deuce just wanted to have you on just for
true.
that. So actually,
that's not true.
Have a great day. Thank you for no. Seriously though, I think that your points are absolutely valid, and I do appreciate that. Whether you're cynical or like you're being a little bit hard on Mike Brown and just watching this every single night. No, I think because I do the same thing sometimes. Like it's not that I don't believe that he deserves it or believe that this team can get out of the first round of playoffs. It's just like, when you don't see something consistently and you're just seeing it consistently for one season, finally, it gives you a little bit of like, oh, okay, is this real? But I'm starting to believe everything's real, Sean. And that's not only with Mike Brown, that's with everything else on the floor. And then De'Aaron Fox being Mr. Clutch or Clutch Player of the Year, whatever you want to call it. What about his performance last night? What does that solidify his award?
I think so. I mean, that to me is a no-brainer. And since we're on the topic of awards, I mean, we can take it back a little bit. Like I said last year, the acquisition of Domantas Sabonis is a franchise-altering move and will lead to success. I mean, you're adding another one of the best players in the league with a player who just so greatly needed a pressure relief, somebody else to help him. There was nobody more thrilled to see Domantas Sabonis come to the Kings than De'Aaron Fox. The guy was elated because it takes pressure off of him, and now he's able to roam and do what he does. And yes, Mike Brown is a huge part of that, but Domantas Sabonis is probably a bigger part of that. And I think this leads well into a discussion of when you're talking executives of the year. I mean, look no further than Monty McNair for the turnaround. And you know, again, so many times it's a media-driven award. All these awards are, and they come with narratives. And it's like all it shows is just how bad Sacramento has been and how bad the history of Sacramento is. But in my mind, the big turnaround is as a result of pieces that were added to this roster, and including Mike Brown, obviously, because Mike Brown, like I said, this is in his first season. That's a decision made by the front office to come here. So to me, all the arguments you can make for Mike Brown, to me, almost ring just as true, if not, in my opinion, way more true with what the executives have done. But to answer your question, I mean, De'Aaron Fox is it's obviously his best season. He's become an all-star. And what's even bigger than that is what he's doing in the fourth quarter. And I remember hearing people talk about, even from around the league, talking about how, that can be viewed as possibly selfish. No, this is not a guy hunting stats. This is not a guy who goes out there and his takeover mode is in the best interest for his team. And he has the ultimate teammate to set him up and put him in position to succeed in Domantas Sabonis.
You've been around De'Aaron a long time, obviously his entire career. So you remember him when he was drafted here from the University of Kentucky, the expectations that came with it, the roller coaster ride his career has been in Sacramento. What's been the biggest surprise to you about this season with him?
Probably the way he has, like, his composure's always been there. I mean, he's a guy who I think will fool you in a sense that you might look at him and go, he probably doesn't care about basketball as much as he does other things or other interests. And I think that's garbage. I've always said I think he's a very competitive player, but I think he had to come into his own. And I think he's the type of star, and I use that term not loosely, like he is a star. And I think he's come into his own because of it, but I think he's the type of star that needs to be pushed. He's always had that criticism of being the Ferrari that won't go above 60 all the time, won't keep his foot on the pedal. And that's been, I mean, even John Calipari said it. I mean, he's like the biggest weakness he has is not keeping his foot on the pedal. And you've seen what that looks like. And then obviously his competitive nature pushes through. To me, he's put together more of a solid effort this year. He's carrying the burden of lack of not being in the postseason and having the lack of success as the face of his franchise. Like it or not, it's a position he wanted to be in. But then once you're there, a whole bunch more expectations get heaped upon it. So for him to have the success, I'm happy for him. I think he's taken growth. I don't think he's a guy who's been immature for his entire time here, but he is someone who's grown along the way. But he's always been a guy who's had a great temperament, a sense of competitive nature. But he's also keenly aware of the expectations that came with the contract. I think, you sign that contract, you have to live up to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't kick in for that second year. I mean, there's a lot of burden that comes with making that money. And, like it or not, there was chatter about possibly moving on from De'Aaron Fox because of the money. And hey, you're paying a guy basically a max contract and you have nothing to show for it. And so them doubling down and getting someone like Sabonis with him has paid off in dividends. And it's just so fun to watch. And you see that smile on his face, you see the competitive nature, and you're seeing him absolutely flourish.
Sean, I know you have a cynical side to you, but I got to ask you, you see everything that's going on in the Western Conference. Do you think the Kings have a chance to make it out of a first round of the playoffs?
First of all, cynical side.
By the way, that's not an insult. I don't think that's an insult. There's nothing wrong with being cynical.
Yeah.
So don't go at my guy Sean like that.
But why is it even, if it's not negative, then how am I going?
But you're painting it that way.
No, I think Sean, I want to almost say it's realistic, but I think Sean sometimes gets afraid of being he never wants to be a homer in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And so he goes the opposite direction
He's objective,
sometimes.
is what you're saying.
Yes. But I also think that Like, I think you obviously give some great information, Sean, but I also think I can convince you to go the other way. But what's your answer to this?
My answer to this is that was an entirely inaccurate statement about me being cynical. Secondly, secondly would be, no, I am a realist. I'm not out there, trying to fill people's heads full of expectations who, drink purple colored Kool-Aid and, I was about to use a bad word there, but but basically have everything in the organization's best interest. I want to be a realist. I want people to temper enthusiasm and curb enthusiasm and make sure you see it first. But I will say, when you talk about optimism, like, I think I've been Captain Optimism since December when I said, hey, if this team makes the playoffs or a postseason play-in tournament, from what I've seen thus far, this team looks like it would be a tough out for any opponent. I don't care who it is. Maybe, in the West anyway. I think if they played somebody like Milwaukee, they'd probably lose 7, 8 out of 10 times, but just because of horrible matchup. But if you look up and down the West, like, there's not a single team outside of maybe a few that really scare me. I like the competitive fire that this team shows, and what's interesting to me, guys, is to see what happens in the playoff series. What's that storyline everyone's missing? Because every year there's someone, doesn't matter what series it is, that rises above the fray, someone who wasn't expected and has, like, this is my Bobby Portis, if you will. This is my physical, the guy who's making the difference in the series from a physical defensive standpoint, or comes in and just absolutely leads this team to just that X factor, if you will. And I don't know who that will be, because for the Kings, it's somebody new every single night. And that's what I think is most intriguing. So I've been kind of, planting my flag in the sense that I think this team will be a competitive team in the playoffs. I want to see what it looks like in a 7-game playoff series. That being said, guys, I don't blame teams like the Lakers, who are trying to fight to get in the postseason, or even somebody like the Warriors or any team that has playoff experience, looking at the Kings and licking their chops saying, I want this playoff, this team that doesn't have that type of postseason experience.
Yeah, I get that too. I mean, from a Lakers perspective, God, the West is just so weird right now. I was like, even looking at last night when Steph drops 50 points.
Yes.
But they lose again on the road. The Warriors are 7-27. The Lakers, I know they were without AD. He wasn't playing second half of back-to-back. But even that, I'm going, I think AD wants to play. And if he feels like he's good, let him play. You guys are trying to make something, and then you just lose a game to Houston last night. Oh, the West is just bizarre this year. I just don't trust anybody in the West right now, Sean. Even Denver's kind of falling apart here. I know they'll probably bounce back taking on the Pistons tonight, but it's a very weird time in the Western Conference. Yeah,
and I mean, the best, I think the Kings have been among the most healthy teams in the league, which is crazy to say because of all the hits Domantas Sabonis takes and the hand injury he's had, and the knickknacks that De'Aaron Fox has experienced, the up and downs, but they've had availability of their players. They've had the health of their players. This is a team that practices all the time. Mike Brown is running these guys through the gauntlet in terms of always having to show up and practice and do shoot-arounds and not take any days off, kind of a thing. That gets criticized a lot, especially by some players because they don't like it. But every player will look at it and go, we understand. And you know what? We've probably benefited from it. I mean, it's funny hearing Malik Monk say, hey, how have you been able to have such a great record on the road? And he's like, because when we land, we go practice. We land in that city and we immediately go practice. So other teams are looking at, taking it a lot of time off, rest and relaxation, recovery. And, maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's, that's maybe why injuries happened along the way. There's no analytic for it necessarily, but I think it is interesting. And the fact that this team has played so well on the road, the fact that they have, let's face it, caught the benefit of playing a lot of teams that haven't had their best players. That's fine, but you still have to control what you control and beat the teams that are in front of you. So they've done a remarkable job at that, especially with the way they play with that fast, high-paced, efficient offense.
Yeah, on the road, I know we've seen a good record. G-Man had a tweet about flying into Brooklyn last night, super late, 3 a.m. And then it's a second night of a back-to-back, quick turnaround for this team tonight against the Nets. How are you feeling? I feel like the Kings sometimes going up against a lengthier, longer squad. They got Mikal Bridges and Claxton. Are you feeling confident in the Kings tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I would just because of how they've played overall. I mean, this team could come back, what is it, like 5 games in 7-8 nights, something like that. 9 nights or whatever it is. I mean, you can come back from this trip with a losing record, and I wouldn't feel any differently than I did before they went out on the trip. I like to call it equity. They've built that equity to where no matter, where they fall, and I don't think guys, I mean, I might be on a hill here. I mean, I'm talking about optimism. I don't think they're falling past 3.
I'm with you on that. It's so late. I feel like they've got like a legit, they built a legit cushion here.
Yeah. And honestly, like you can lose a few games and it'll be just okay. And it's fun to watch how this team hasn't, had really a losing streak beyond, 3 or 4 since November?
Yeah. The 3-game one was late November. That's
insane. So, I mean, they have a lot of fortitude. I mean, that's the way this team competes is really impressive. And hey, Trey Lyles was just suspended. He's been such a big guy who's contributed off the bench that probably not a lot of people, including myself, expected for him to contribute in this fashion. And he just had a nice day off. It was an extensive day off, but I think he's the type of guy that can give them a boost tonight. So, I think it'll play out fine. They can come back off this trip. It's their last long trip of the season, and even if it's a losing record, they're going to be just fine.
Man, this is a fun time. Sacramento basketball.
Who do you guys want to see in the playoffs? Like, if you had, I keep asking. I mean, I know like, the West changes every day, but if you had to pick one, who do you want?
I think Dallas is one that immediately comes to mind for me because I just don't think they've got the pieces to get it done. They don't have the defense or really the firepower outside Luka and Kyrie. Now it's like Dallas is falling apart though. Like they got to be careful here, especially if Kyrie misses extended time. They may not even be in there. Other than that, I don't know if there's anyone I'd be excited to play. I think it's so close.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Dallas is the team that they'll ultimately face. I don't know, we don't know obviously who's coming out of that play-in tournament there, and it could be maybe Dallas is in that conversation, but there's a few teams that make me nervous, and it's weird for me to think that Minnesota is one of them. And I think it's just because of the way another long, lanky team, are they going to have Cat back? Who knows what that looks like?
Oh, please have Cat back. That's going to ruin them.
I know. I tell people all the time, if there was a team that I took over as a general manager, God forbid, and I had Cole Anthony Towns on that team, I'm immediately trading him.
Yes, I agree with you. He's super talented, but that Minnesota team's so weird. I just built around Ant. That's the squad.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
By the way, Sean is at Golden One Center watching some NCAA basketball. What's the vibe like today? Has it been fun out there?
Yeah, what's cool is they had this event in the first year it was open. And remember, I mean, to go back into the history of Golden One Center, it's like this was the event that changed Sacramento's mind when it came to getting a new arena. Because you remember, it was Arco Sleep Train Arena where the NCAA said, no, this is not suitable.
Ooh, that's right.
And so they go through, we all know what it looked like to get this building, and they get it in the first second year, something like that. And I remember I covered that. They had Oregon, Dylan Brooks' team coming in here, Chris Boucher, and then you had UCLA with Lonzo Ball. And here we are again, so many years later, UCLA is coming through again. You got Arizona, who a lot of people think could maybe win it all. And this place is just absolutely loving it. I mean, there's so many fans here. Not a lot of empty seats. You might see a lot of empty seats around the court if you're watching it on television. But I'm telling you, this is one of the better attended arenas when it comes to this, because it's not uncommon to see some empty seats the way the tickets are sold for the various games that happen each night. You got a morning session with 2 games. You have the afternoon session with 2 games. And usually when you buy your tickets, you get double headers. So they'll have to clear out and bring people in. But this arena is very well attended. The crowds are into it. And yeah, you just saw Utah State give a pretty good Missouri team a run for their money, and Missouri just pulled away. So now it's followed up right now with Princeton and Arizona, and can't wait to see it.
Let's go. Well, Sean, have fun out there, man. I'm jealous. That's going to be a good time out there. So enjoy.
Come on
it,
out.
dude.
You'll be here tonight.
I am not here to know. I mean, I know Jason Ross is going out there tonight to watch UCLA after the Kings game.
Oh,
he's gonna go out there.
We got a
pod. He gonna dress up as the Bruins? He'll be the Bear, right?
Yeah, apparently he wants to go see UCLA lose. I think that.
Oh,
that'd be
you're
great.
so evil.
I know. Well, Sean, thanks for joining us, dude.
Anytime, you know that.
All right, man. Have fun out there.
Sorry, I can't see you guys.
I know. I miss your face.
Bye.
Bye, Sean.
We'll talk to you soon.